This episode of the Mega Meeple is brought to you by our supporters over at Pod Pledge. Welcome to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. This is episode 44, and this is going to be a rather small, short episode. I had a bit of a little tiny bit of a scare this past week. I had to go to the hospital, but luckily, after all the tests were done, we found out that it wasn't what we thought it was. So it was a few intense days there for a while this past week. So we're just going to have the interview. This is one of the cool things I like about recording the interviews like months in advance that, half the episodes already in the can. So it's fairly easy in editing and not too time consuming as far as putting the episodes together. So we're just going to have the interview this time. But I do want to remind people that our 50th episode is coming up, which will fall on the same weekend as our 1-year anniversary, which also happens to be the weekend that International Tabletop Day is, April 28th. So there's going to be a lot of partying and gaming that weekend. We're already getting some audio clips from past guests and other content creators, and some of them are pretty hilarious. You gotta listen to the beginning of the 50th episode. We'll play all those, and if you want to be included in with that, you don't even have to have a game or a podcast or anything to plug. You can just be a listener of the show. So if you want to have your 15 seconds of fame at the beginning of our 50th episode, just record a short audio clip of you saying, happy 50th episode or happy 1-year anniversary Mega Meeple, and then send that audio file either in an MP3 or a WAV file, and email that to megameeple@outlook.com, and we will put your audio clip at the beginning the 50th episode along with all the other well-wishers. Also, bear in mind that we are trying to come up with a contest that we could do a giveaway, but we need your help as far as figuring out what kind of contest you would want to do. And again, you could contact us with your ideas. Either comment in the section below this episode on the website, or you could email us directly at the same email I gave a few seconds ago, megameeple@outlook.com. Or just reach out to us to any of our social media outlets. And the links to all those things are on the social media page, also on the website. The website is www.themegameeple.com. So without any further ado, let's go right into the interview of a really highly successful Kickstarter, and I'm really looking forward to this game, the Chronicles of Crime. Alright, welcome back to the Mega Meeple, and this week's episode guest has a real winner. I gotta tell you, you've probably heard of or played Vikings Gone Wild or Zombie Tsunami. But this time, I think they have a breakout hit called Chronicles of Crime. And from Lucky Duck Games, we have Vincent. And Vince, I'll let you pronounce your last name because it's out of my league.
Thanks, Vincent Vergonjeanne.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, what he said. But
pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming on. I'm sure you guys are just slammed to the wall with all the stuff with well, first of all, congratulations on a wildly successful Kickstarter.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
At the time of this recording, you had a modest goal of $15,000, and at the time we were recording this, I think you overshot that by about $210,000.
Yeah. It's been a pretty amazing journey. So. I mean, we have been working really hard for the last 6 months to communicate, and it's our fifth campaign, so we've learned a lot through the four previous one on how to make sure people learn about our game before, but beyond us, understanding communication aspect. I think the game itself is really amazing. It's not our design. We're just a publisher. It's actually coming from a French designer called David Sicurel, who really pulled off something truly fantastic. And we've been working with him for a year now to transform what was a very, ugly piece of code and few cards into a beautiful product and something extremely robust. And so basically really helping him make that game complete and beautiful. And I think the synergy speaks by itself when looking at how the first few days of the campaign has done for us.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, when I've looked on I first saw a preview of it on Man vs. Meeple. And I'm sure that has helped get just the awareness and people signing up at the game. Good press can only go so far. You got to have a good game to kind of back that up. And that's what you got here. I mean, I'm a retired forensic specialist. And,
oh wow! Okay, awesome.
I know I've had usually I've get phone calls or emails back when I was in the industry from mostly high school kids. It's like, okay, how do I get into forensics? That was back when we had like umpteen different variations of CSI TV. And but this game, if you want to get into like CSI and know what it kind of sort of like is like, Chronicles of Crime is the closest thing that you could do to actually get a glimpse or a glimmer of what that kind of
thank you
kind of job is.
Thank you very much. Coming from you and your experience, that actually means a lot. Thank you so much. Appreciate.
So tell us about how did was this always a virtual reality game, or was that introduced later? I mean, what was the development of Chronicles of Crime and on to what it is today?
So I met David at Cannes 2017, which was literally 1 year ago from today, and he was telling me that he had this hybrid game that he wanted to show me. And for the story, I've been lucky in business, and I have some, let's say, some spare cash that I've been investing in companies. And one of them was a hybrid board game company 3 years ago. The story is that I've lost all my money because this hybrid game company didn't do so well. So even though I lost my investment, I've learned a lot as of what not to do when it comes to hybrid. And when he tells me that he has hybrid game, I'm like, eh. And then we actually meet finally after talking about it. And within 15 minutes of the demo, I'm like, okay, that's the first hybrid game I've seen in a long time that actually I think really get it and actually check all the boxes that personally I have. And already on that demo, David pulled its 3D glasses and showed me actually a very rudimental and pretty ugly 3D scene because it was made out of photograph that he photoshopped with, or it was not even Photoshop. I think it was a paint where he added a couple elements. So it was very rudimental. But I was with my brother and another game designer, and we were literally just in awe in front of what we had. The deck of cards, it was just card at the time. It was literally just printed on it was like extremely rudimental. The thing had no visual whatsoever. And we were so pulled by the story, so engaged that within 15 minutes, I was like, I want to develop this game. So hardcore. You got me, sir. I really thought I would never do a hybrid game. So VR was there early on. I have to say, though, about VR, our approach to it has evolved. And the retail version of the game will not have the VR glasses. And the reason is, we believe in under-promising and over-delivering. Putting a VR glasses in every box is a bit of a stretch because the issue is that the game still requires a 2 years old phone for basically 2 years old is the approximate timeline where gyroscope were widely introduced into smartphone, and you need a gyroscope for this to work. So after having a couple frustrated people for whom the game didn't work, and having hundreds of playtesters who played the game without VR and telling us how much they enjoy the game, we realized that this VR, as much as it's great, it's not the key of the experience. It is a very nice way to get the thematic and project it inside, but the game itself is a very streamlined Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective experience. It's basically Sherlock Holmes, but every location, every interrogation has, I would say, 20% of the text that Sherlock Holmes will generally have, which make it easier to read, easier to approach. And also we are in a 1 hour 20 format, which again has had people who said, oh yeah, I played Sherlock Holmes. It was nice. It was a lot of text. It was a bit long, but here, I can't wait to play the next case. So that's the journey around the VR, which is an amazing experience, yet it's not the core one. And we will sell the glasses as a module in store next to the game, so that you actually basically you make a choice to get those glasses, basically, and make sure that it will work for you.
Yeah, but people are still able to use the app and play the game without the glasses. You're just kind of scrolling along on your phone, correct?
Absolutely. So the experience without glasses is basically you have the equivalent of a Google map. When I don't know if you've seen those experiences where you go on a street and you can see the 360 experience of a street. Right. It's very much the same thing. You can either you use still your gyroscope, so it feels like VR, except that you're moving your body left, top, right, the same way you would, but it kind of have that window through your phone into this virtual world, or just simply using your finger. And actually, when you use a finger, you can actually use your double finger to zoom in and try to kind of try to see closer to what is on the floor here and stuff like that. And so the obviously everybody who tries VR is like, wow, that's truly amazing. But we really insist that it's not core to the experience. The game is extremely solid without it. It is. So it's a very nice thematic on top of it, but it's not core.
Okay. So like a board game meets the holodeck on the Enterprise type of thing,
Something like that.
So tell us more about the game, about the victory conditions and the mechanics and how it plays out.
Absolutely. So it's a cooperative crime investigation game. Everybody basically it's 1 to 4 player. There is 4 forensic contacts. So for the story, they used to be us, and people were confused. They wanted to scan themselves before playing, and so we actually made them contacts, and that really fluidified the flow. That basically you have 4 forensic contacts that you don't have to visit. You just simply give them a phone call. You have obviously the doctor who can analyze body. You have the forensic material expert, like analysis expert. You have the psychologist and the hacker, who I would say is good at Google and hacking in general. And the setup is very simple. You put the board, you put the police station, you turn on the phone, select the scenario you want to have, and that's it. Then you just follow the story, and the story will say, well, the chief police officer of Doyle, character 33, someone new is in his office. So the game tells you to get cards of characters with random number. So you go through a pile and you reveal that person, put it at this location. Basically, you read the text, and the text will give you new location, new people to talk to. And then collectively, very much like in the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective way, we decide where we want to go, who we want to ask, and what. The strength of the game is that everything is cross-referenceable. So you can ask, basically you can interrogate someone about anything else in the game. So I can ask a suspect about anybody else in the game, about any piece of evidence that you've collected. And so that's a lot of text, and that's a very rich world to explore. So the game is very much about trying to think about what to give to who. Obviously, you can't just brute force the game. You can't just scan everything. Not only it's boring, but you will have a terrible score, because the way it works is very similar than Sherlock Holmes Consulting. The faster you go, the better your score. So when you finish, when you believe you found the person, either with a hard evidence, but sometimes you don't have a hard evidence. You just need to have a very strong flair to it. You go back, you give your answers to questions that are not only about who killed who, but answer to sometimes, who has an affair with who, who benefited the most from the crime. Basically, things that you will discover if you really go deeper into the story and interrogate the right people. And at the end, you have your score. And so coming back to time, there is a very strong sense of time pressure in the game if you want to maximize your score. So you cannot just scan everything. You need to ask the right question to the right people, even though you can technically ask anything to anyone.
Now, the Kickstarter is until, I think it's March 20th of this year. So
I think it's 21st, or maybe 20th. You're right, 20th in the midnight. I think it's 21st at midnight or something like this. Yes.
Okay. So if people are listening to this like months or years down the road, you missed it. So, but is there like would there be like a pre-order or a late pledge type of thing once the Kickstarter is over?
I think so. Yeah, we might not include everything that we give to a backer, but we'll certainly have a late pledge at the end of the campaign, because it will be sad to miss on just this 20 days window. We always give something special to the backer who will really actually help us get there, but we'll definitely keep a window open for late backers.
And then if everything goes well, like logistically, they're expecting a release date, at least for the backers, Kickstarter backers, in December this year. When will the game be hitting retail?
Well, so as always, we never get a game in retail before we deliver to every single one of our backers. So probably not any time before January, February 2019 is the time we'll get it into retail. We also have 2 expansions which themselves will not hit retail for another 3 months after. So nothing earlier than at least April for the first one. So it's a good occasion, and that's our incentive for people who join this Kickstarter. It's basically to get all this content way ahead of their retail release. And the 2 expansions are 2 different universes, because the whole point of the game, and that's an aspect that I'm really excited about, is that it's a game system. And at the difference of a time story where you have your 3 runs usually, and then you're done. The material is pretty much over. All the material in this game is reusable. And we are actually working with a lot of authors. We're signing a lot of authors right now to bring and maintain a constantly new episode that you can download. So with that, with a $39 base box, you will be able to do much more than the 6Ks that are inside. What's exciting is that because it don't require anything physical, it's just about paying the author and the right, and it's purely digital. So we were able to really shrink the price of those episodes to something really very small, and so that really makes it a game system. And so now back to the expansion, we beside the extensibility of the base game, we wanted to bring this game system to 2 different other universe. The first one is extension called Noir, and as you can guess by the name, is 1950 Los Angeles. And actually, the entire group of player is only a single person, which is the stereotypical, 1950 private detective guy with very non-orthodox. I don't know if you can say that. It's a very French thing to say, but unusual method. Basically, you can bribe, you can break in, you can follow people, you can intimidate intimidate. Sorry, I'm still French. So some very interesting change in the way you play. So basically, instead of having your forensic contact, you basically have your feast and your money. But obviously, all this is in short resources, so you can't just bribe everybody. You're gonna have to take some right choice. You can't just intimidate everyone. Some people will not react properly to it. So you kind of have to have some choices on how and when you can use what, to get to your hands. And this is written by a very talented guy. His name is French. His name is Stéphane Antequil, and he has worked on a lot of Sherlock Holmes Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and a lot of basically crime investigation books. And the other one is called Welcome to Review. Basically, it's kind of Goonies meets Stranger Things. It's 1983, a little town with his small, quiet dramas where nothing much interesting is happening. And suddenly, animals are disappearing for the last 2 weeks, up until the dog of Jeremy, I think is his name, is gone, and a group of other 5 friends and him, basically the 6 of them, decide to get to the bottom of it and try to find their dog. And that's the beginning of an expansion where the players are the kids, and with their own mean. And without the assistant of police, will try to get to the bottom of things happening in that city. This one is oriented to have less blood, actually no blood. It's kind of we want it to be A+. It's a way less mature. I would say content, like Chronicles of Crime can have some pretty mature content, like a couple episodes, we describe some pretty gruesome crime scenes and stuff like that. It's intended for a much more mature audience. Where here the idea is that we kind of play to scare each other, but at the end it's all good. So those are the 2 different universes we kind of want to bring with this game system.
That's cool. And the fact that with the QC codes and the virtuality, you could update the towns or the crime scenes or the scenarios very easily and get new content. Now,
Absolutely, yeah.
Is it you mentioned 2 expansions, so would it be? I guess the closest thing I could compare it to is like Mansions of Madness, where they'll add like a scenario, but they'll put like if there's any physical contents that need to be added to the board, the base game, those would be like actual physical expansions that will go along with the scenarios.
Yeah, it's because those are very strongly different universe. Actually, it's you don't really mix both games. What you keep from the base game is the board, the evidence cards, and maybe a couple special items, and that's about it. The fact that we keep the evidence card, as part of the base game allows us for this expansion to be cheaper because they are language independent. So this language independency, people who don't understand manufacture might not understand how important it is, but actually it's very important to make sure that those expansions remains cheaper, even though they might have a lot of content. It's just because we can break down the price with multiple publishers in different countries for the same content. Yes, so basically in the app, you basically at the very beginning of the app, you choose if it's London, if it's 1950, or if it's 1983. Basically, you choose which box you want to play with or which expansion you want to play with, and then you have a bunch of scenarios that are related to it. And one thing actually I realized in mention for Welcome to Review, the author is Guillain, and is actually the author of Not Alone. I don't know if you know this board game. A very good board game. Okay. And him and David Sequel are both a longtime RPG player, and so they wanted to give this one a stronger RPG feel. So this one comes with dice, and basically you have tests that you have to do. Actually, in a sense, there is something very. I think about it because you just mentioned Mansions of Madness, actually, which has this kind of dice test that you have to do at some point. You have some dice mitigation things in the middle, but it can't go so far, right? You can't mitigate every single dice roll, so you have to decide which one will be more important for you or not during your journey and your adventure. So.
All right, cool. Well, I'm very much looking forward to this game. December can't come soon enough. It'll be a good Christmas gift to ourselves. So,
Thank you very much.
So, if people want to find out more about the game, or even you guys, where could they go?
So the best is to go on Kickstarter and search for Chronicles of Crime. They can also go on our website, luckyduckgames.com. They will find a link immediately for Chronicles of Crime.
Of course, we'll have the links of those things in the show notes of this episode. Vincent, thank you so much for taking time out for your busy, insanely schedule.
It is pretty intense, but it's a great pleasure to share this journey and some of the choices we had to make to be where we are. So really appreciate the invite as well. So thank you so much and have a good day then.
You too now. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Mega Meeple. Stay tuned next week as our guests will be some cool dudes over in Sweden talking about their Kickstarter game, List It. For those of you like me who are sick and tired of Cards Against Humanity as the go-to de facto party game, this List It game is one of those things, one of those party social games that will bring something fresh and new to your parties. So be sure to come back next week for that interview. Now, if you are a game designer or creator, or you have a game on Kickstarter and you'd like to be a guest on the show, contact us at megameeple@outlook.com, or you go to our website, www.themegameeple. Go to the Contact Us page, fill out the forms, and we will be alerted of your interest, and we'll see about getting you on the calendar. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to subscribe to iTunes. And while you're there, leave us some 5-star loving and a happy review. It really help us out. And just help spread the word. Tell your friends all about us. Now, if you really like the show and you'd like to support us in some way, either $1 a month or per episode or any amount of dollars per month, you go to our Pod Pledge page. The links to those are also on the social media page on the website. It really helps us out with the hosting cost and such. So thank you so much for listening, and we hope you will join us again next week. Until then, this is Tom saying we'll see you at the gaming table.